Hi there, RC Girl here. Today we're going to be talking about how to winterize and waterproof your RC car. Here on the central coast of California, we get some pretty wet and rainy winters. I also spend some time in Utah where it gets super cold and snowy. I have a snow bash that I'll put a link to from last year. So I want to get the car ready for these wet and snowy winters. I have a few tips on how I do that with the Basher Sabertooth. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to make sure all the electronics in your car are waterproofed. The things that you're going to need for this waterproofing is going to be the handy dandy Corrosion X HD. It creates kind of like this sort of oily film on your electronics, so you're not going to want to overuse it because it collects dust, but it's also good for removing rust and preventing rust of your tools. But we're going to use it for today for the purposes of waterproofing. Next, you're going to need a plastic bag. So any of the parts that you want to have waterproofed are going to be kind of drenched in this oil, submerged, marinated. You're also going to want a balloon. So we can use this to waterproof the car. Some people only use this method, but we're going to use it as a dust guard for some of our components like the BEC and our receiver that we don't want to have dusty because, like I said, Corrosion X does tend to attract some dust. Dante's at my feet and making noises. So now we're going to take the car apart and I'll show you which components we're going to want to waterproof. My BEC is in a balloon. It looks like it's seen its final days. It needs to be replaced. I also have my radio here in a balloon. This one looks like it might be okay, but I'll take it apart anyway and look it over, make sure that it is in fact sealed. We also have the ESC, and on the Basher Sabertooth it says here WP for being waterproofed. Not all ESCs are waterproofed. This one I think has epoxy sealed everything, so the components inside are going to be protected from water. So we also here have a brushless motor, and brushless motors are inherently waterproof. We might Corrosion X some of the gears to make sure that they're not going to corrode. And this is a new servo that I got recently after the beach wave incident that burned up my past one. So this one's going to need to be taken apart and Corrosion X'd. I'd recommend doing this whenever you get a new servo, but since I already installed this, we're just going to take it off and do it right now. So now we have our servo out, and we're going to want to waterproof the electronics. You can also take apart the gears and Corrosion X those, but right now we're just going to open up the bottom end and access the electronics. This is where we're going to use our plastic bag, and what I just do is put it in the plastic bag, spray it, and kind of let it soak in. So we're going to catch the overspray with the bag, let it soak in, and we'll move on to our next part. So we'll just put that aside for now. So here I have my BEC. I have another video that I'll link to about why you would want to install a BEC and the purposes and functions, but this is not a waterproof component. So I'll use the same bag that I have my servo soaking in Corrosion X. Place it in there and give it a squirt. Okay, next we're gonna take out our receiver. And you can also Corrosion X this, and I also keep it in a balloon to make sure that none of the dust and dirt and sand and salt water and all that stuff gets into it. So we'll just add this to our little bag here and waterproof that as well with some Corrosion X. So next we have our battery. And so what you're going to want to do is Corrosion X these battery leads, so get down in there. And then there's also a circuit board in here in the battery, so you're going to want to inject some Corrosion X into this piece as well. Okay, now that all our electronics in the car are thoroughly coated with Corrosion X, we're going to clean these up, wipe down any exposed components because again these do attract dust. We want to avoid that. All our electronics are waterproof. We're going to reassemble everything and plug everything back in. Another thing you want to be aware of is your shock oils. So during the winter when it's colder, you're going to want to run some lighter weight shock oil. So the thickness of your oils is temperature dependent. You're going to be able to run lighter weight oil and it's going to give you about the same performance as if you were running a thicker oil at a warmer temperature. So we're going to put about 5 to 10 weight lighter oil in each of our shocks. Another thing is your batteries. When I was running in the snow, my car got completely covered and submerged in snow. You want to make sure that you keep these warm in between runs, so keep them either in your house. You can even use heater packets to keep those warm, and they will function a lot better during the winter. So the last thing we're going to want to do is to check our tires and make sure that the holes inside the rims are taped up so we don't get water inside of those. I've had that happen where I got water inside my tires and the foam got all ruined when I ran the tires at high speed. So we'll double check that on all our tires. So I haven't taken these tires off in a long time, but last winter when I got these for Christmas, the Badlands, I did go ahead and cut a thin strip of Gorilla Tape and taped over the hole which is inside one of these grooves. They did hold up for last winter, so I think that these are going to be good for this next season as well. So you just want to make sure that any holes where water can get into your tires is sealed. So you can also test it if you squeeze your tire and hear any air, that there's a hole in it somewhere. So you want to make sure that that's sealed up, so keep your foam nice and dry. All right, so there we have it, folks. We've waterproofed all our electronics. We've waterproofed our BEC and our receiver and put those in a balloon to make sure that we don't get dust on them. We've also waterproofed the electronics in our servo. Our ESC was already waterproof. Our motor was already waterproof. And we've waterproofed the terminals of our battery. Our tires, we've taped over the holes so we make sure that water does not get into the foam and ruin those. And lastly, our shock oils. You want to make sure that you use a lighter weight shock oil. So in part 2, I'll do a run video in the rain just to make sure that all these parts are in fact waterproof. So if you guys have any other tips for waterproofing your car or winterizing your car, please leave those in comments below. I'd love to hear them. I'd like to read all your guys' comments. And you guys have a lot of great ideas. So thanks for sharing those, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Signing out.